I am speaking with Ethan Forman, the Gloucester reporter for the Gloucester Times. Hi, Ethan. How are you this morning?
I'm great. It's a hectic morning.
Yeah. So tell us about it. You just came from Gloucester High School where you were talking about the Green Bandana program. What is that?
Well, at Gloucester High last year, their director of social emotional learning, actually for the district, started a program called the Mental Health Ambassador Program. So what they did is they trained kids, actually 72 hours of training.
Wow.
Yeah, and 4 or 5 kids went through that training, and then this year they wanted to make a visible impact. I guess there's been some loss at the school, and so the kids wanted to do something. So Amy Cam came up with a green bandana program. I don't say green backpack program. It's a green bandana program.
Yeah.
Where you have a green bandana and you tie it to your backpack, kind of as a way of solidarity with those who may be having mental health struggles. I mean, look, it's COVID, right?
Right.
Some of these kids have been, were stuck indoors in the spring of 2020, are going to school. We're all dealing with this. You have to wear a mask. And mental health struggles are, ongoing. So it's a way to show a visible support. They're tying them to the doors in the high school and wearing them on their backpacks. And the kids get the bandanas, get this stuff. I'm going to see if I can get this for you, a pledge card.
Oh, by having the green bandana visible, you make a pledge to be a trusted friend for a struggling peer, commit to destigmatize mental health challenges, get a friend in need to be a trusted adult, demonstrate that no one needs to struggle alone. That's really, really great.
And then also important on the back, whenever we're talking about mental health.
Resources, there you go. North Shore Emergency Services, National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, the Trevor Project, Crisis Text Line, talk to a trusted adult, really important. Can you just back up and say what the training, who was getting the training again? Not everyone with a green bandana.
No, obviously what happened was Amy started this pilot of this program with about 4 or 5 kids, maybe a little bit more, who were trained.
Okay.
In a certain amount of training. The name it's called GIFT training. It's an acronym. I don't have it quite down yet.
Yeah.
They went through the program, and this year they brought on more mental health ambassadors. So there's senior, not a senior as in senior in high school, but senior mental health ambassadors, junior mental health ambassadors, and they're starting initiatives to provide awareness of the struggles that young kids go through.
Right. So these kids or these ambassadors are getting the 72 hours of training on how to talk to their peers about mental health or certain issues. Is that right?
Yeah. And I think really, I don't want to get too caught up in the training because it was impressive, but what it is the kids, you can approach a kid and they're not going to give you counseling.
Right.
They're going to be trained to sort of maybe recognize maybe if you're struggling and get you to a trusted adult.
Okay.
That's the idea. It's not, they don't become therapists, but they get the kids who are trained and then the kids who are probably going to get some sort of training, but it's really about directing the kids who are struggling to some help. Right. And also to think about this, just having those green bandanas around saying that we're in solidarity with you if you're struggling with mental health, maybe even that's just a positive reinforcement.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's not like we're not alone. I think a lot of people who struggle with mental health think they're the only ones who have these kind of issues.
Exactly.
And they don't.
Yeah. And to see many green bandanas must feel so good for the kid who's walking those little, those halls feeling as if they're very alone. Yeah.
They gave out, they were telling me they gave out about 480 green bandanas.
Oh, wow. That's great.
More than half the Gloucester High has that kind of visible sign of solidarity. And you walk around, you see them just tied to the door handles on kids' backpacks. And it's just again, another way of just saying, hey, it's like if you're struggling, maybe you think, what, I'll seek a mental health ambassador out. I'll seek out a trusted adult teacher. Mm-hmm. Maybe they don't want to go to the teacher, but maybe that's the way to go.
Yeah. So you just came from Gloucester High. So did you speak to some of these ambassadors?
Yeah, I spoke to a half a dozen ambassadors. ranging in age from sophomore to senior.
Mhm.
And two of them had shown up at the school committee on December 15th to sort of talk about the program
Mhm.
and what it meant to them. And at that school committee meeting, the school committee members all got green bandanas. And
Aw.
one of the other visible things that they're doing is you sign your name on a banner. And they
Oh,
want that in the school, all those names shows that, hey, they support what they're doing, you know?
that's great.
Yeah, so I think if a kid's struggling, they see the green bandanas, they say, at least my peers are supportive.
Yeah. No, the isolation is one of the biggest problems with this pandemic, so to feel physically isolated at one point, which they all did, these kids, and then to feel mentally isolated too is, fighting that is probably the very first step for all of us to help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some of the kids told me too that they joined because they may have lost somebody close to them, or they wanted to, they're struggling in their own way with mental health issues. So they wanted to, it's a way for them to get help,
Mm,
maybe, or to help others,
mm.
want someone to go through what they're going through.
And actually, in our very first conversation, which was last week, we talked about this. There was a tragedy at Gloucester High School.
Yeah, yeah. But I think that the wider, there, it's not centered on, the programs are really centered on these terrible tragedies.
Hmm.
I think it's trying to bring awareness to the struggles of mental health that go on every day. It's not just about these terrible things that happen in your life. That is important for them to deal with. This school, when the young man passed away from COVID, they brought in mental health, counselors to talk to kids. This is a way to make a wider awareness of the mental health struggles that people face, like, a pink ribbon for breast cancer.
Right, right.
I think that's the real power of this. I think, in my opinion.
Well, that card is very important also, the one that has the resources on the back and the, action items on the front. That's really great. Anything else you're thinking about for the next week in your stories?
Well, I think I'm going to be covering the Martin Luther King event on Monday, and I did a sit down with the mayor to talk about his first 11 days in the corner office. See, a very interesting thing is I come into his office, it's pretty Spartan, and he says, I said, well, how do you coping with job? He says, well, here's my outlet, and he's got an electric bass hanging on the wall behind him. He says, if you want to pull my strings, this is the way to do it, right?
That's
So
great.
yeah, so it was a good sit down.
Good. Well, we'll look forward to that article and your Martin Luther King article and more. Thank you. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Ethan. Bye.
Appreciate it. Nice to be here.
Interested in a sponsorship? Email sponsor@1623studios.org to learn more.